Big time fight coming up in the lightweight division this weekend. Might be a little bit of a surprise to some people. We have Grant Dawson, the forever prospect. He's taking on Tricky Ricky Glenn. It's no longer Rick. He changed it his last fight out. There's a great story about that. James Lynch did an interview with him about why he changed his name. And it's funny. And you got to give shouts where it's due to the Canadians and the good guys in the game. But Matt, I love this fight because for Glenn, his last time out, he took on Joaquim Silva, and in that one, he knocked him the F out. And it was a return for a guy who had been out due to injuries. He used to train at Team Alpha Male, and then a little bit at Pura Vida BJJ, but he wasn't in California anymore. He moved back home. You know, we're putting rounds in Iowa, and we're getting ready for some fights. And for Glenn, he looked great. And I was worried and hesitant about him in that fight. Everything was gone. This is Gavin Tucker-esque Rick Glenn. Sorry, Ricky. And for Grant Dawson, I always worried about him. You know, there are always USADA issues, this, that, and the other. There are always weight issues at 145. He goes out, he fights a guy that if you're a Fight Night Picks fan, you know I'm all over Leonardo Santos. And in that fight, it was like, oh, shed a tear for Leonardo. And in that one, it was disgusting. Grant Dawson looked absolutely amazing. He's a guy that, the two things that I worry about with Grant Dawson, striking defense against boxers, cardio, and making the weight on the scales on Friday. Those are the three big things that I worry about. Because when he defends himself, he brings his hands up, and he just kind of stops. And if you can hit around him, you got a good chance.
The best way I can describe Grant Dawson's defense is, and I'm sorry people might not like the basketball references, but this will be the last one. When Giannis shoots, it's very mechanical. It's like, okay, this is what I do, and if it goes in, great. If not, that's fine. Jason Tatum, moves his wrists like an actual shooter does. He has a feel for it. Some guys with their striking defense, think of Anderson Silva in his prime. He's got trunk movement, he has head movement, and he has his hands too. With Grant Dawson, it was a great point. It is just a lot of that, hands up. Where my hands are, yeah, if you hit that, that's fine. But if you have any kind of striking IQ, and if you can work around a guy's defense, like Ricky Glenn definitely can, then there are definitely holes there from a guy like Grant Dawson. But the thing about Dawson, and you set it up perfectly, is that the only concerns I have is his weight, which at 155 I don't really worry about, his gas tank, which at 155 I worry about a lot less, and his striking defense, which, yes, I'm still going to worry about in this fight, but I gotta be honest, I was worried about Grant Dawson moving up to 155 pounds. I thought, you're a really dominant wrestler, you rely a lot on your physicality. Maybe against those bigger guys it will be tough. Leonardo Santos is a pretty big lightweight, though. A really big lightweight. And the fact that Grant Dawson was able to hold his own in some of those grappling exchanges just reassured that move up in weight. How many times have we seen... Darren Till's a great example. You see a guy move up in weight, you think it's going to work out, maybe it does for a little bit, but after you start fighting the elite of the elite, some of the chinks in the armor start to show and some of the cracks do. I don't think Grant Dawson's going to be one of these fighters where he's going to stick around at 155 pounds for 2-3 fights, maybe lose once, then all of a sudden think, hey, I've got to move back down. I really do think that if he does let his body grow into this weight class, because I do think he has a little bit more growing to do. I don't think it's okay, I'm a lightweight now, this is it. You can still grow a little bit afterwards. It's kind of like when Poirier fought Holloway. Poirier settled into lightweight a little bit more. You could tell he was the thicker guy, whereas Holloway was just going from, I fight at 145 too, I'm fighting at 155 now. He was just cutting less weight, if that makes any sense. So for me, a lot of the questions that I had about Grant Dawson moving up to lightweight were completely eliminated in his last fight too, and that's why I'm so excited for this matchup. It's two fighters that I thought I knew a lot about, but they still add new things, and they still find a way to keep their fights exciting.
Ricky Glenn could have called it quits when he was a World Series champ, and I would have gone, oh, that guy's a pretty good fighter. He could have called it quits after he lost to who? Pick any of his losses. When he lost to Miles Jury and then he comes out and beats Dennis Bermudez. Or when he loses to Kevin Aguilar by decision, who's no longer in the UFC. And then he comes out and he beats Joaquim Silva. And Joaquim Silva is a one-quitter hitter. He's a one-pump chump. He's a guy that's in it to win it. And then he's off the bed. And his lady's like...
you'd say?
His lady's like, but Joaquim, well, what about me?
Wow.
So when I look at this fight, it is one of those ones where... For Glenn, so dynamic and a very, very rangy guy. He was at 145. Same can be said at 155. And he has finishing ability to boot.
Is it fair to say he's the Tim Means of lightweight? He doesn't throw the elbows at him, but they're both very volume-heavy strikers. They have good boxing on the inside. They have good grappling. It's not a perfect comparison, but I think it's a sound one. Because what Rick Glenn does is, on the inside, he has weapons to deal with it. On the outside, he has weapons to deal with it. The thing I really like about Ricky's game as a whole is that it's all about my move and then my counter move. And it is very NBA that way, and I think that's why I appreciate it.
You gotta stop with the references.
I'm done now, don't worry. The thing about Ricky Glenn, though, is that I really like his game, but it still is his game. He improves on the things that he does really, really well, but I don't look at Glenn and I don't see him adding massive new areas into his game. I know we've talked a lot about his improvements, but it's not like his improvements are, I'm all of a sudden adding like a kicking game, like Brendan Allen did when we went to Sanford. You know, like he's added more power with the move up in weight, and I feel like he's another case where I'm just cutting less weight, I'm more comfortable here. I'm focused less on just making weight in my training camp, and now I'm focused more on working on my skills, and that's why I think Glenn's look good at 155. I think this could be fight of the night, honestly, and I really do think this is a good primer for the main event, because if Grant Dawson's going to win, it's probably going to be a one-sided fight. I hate to say that, but he's probably going to get an initial takedown. He's got phenomenal ground and pound.
Gets into mount. Yikes.
Exactly. Like, that's the thing about Dawson. When he gets into mount, he makes it count. There's not just like I'm going to wait here, like the amateur rules of New Brunswick, where there's no head strikes on the ground, so guys would get in full mount and like try to hit the guy in the shoulder.
But does New Brunswick have an advanced amateur rule set?
I'm so glad you asked, Craig. Yes, they do. Now, with Grant Dawson, though, he is one of those fighters where when he gets to that top position, he makes every second count. And that's why if he's able to get there early, I think he's going to be able to drain Glenn to the point where Glenn won't have that knockout power in the second and third round. And that's why I think Dawson is such a big favorite in this fight.
Yeah, the odds. Dawson open to minus 400 favorite. He's a minus 347 right now. For Tricky Ricky, open to plus 300. He's a plus 266. If we go have a look at Tapology, I'm not surprised by it. 851 total votes, 95% Dawson, 57% by decision, 24% by submission, 12% by knockout. Do the percentages add up? I don't know. It's Tapology. For the 5% that have Glenn, 44% by decision, 31% by knockout. I like Grant Dawson in this one. I don't have the big cardio concerns that I used to have. Again, Rick Glenn's a finisher, so if you like Glenn, cool beans, bro. But for me, yeah, I like KGD Grant Dawson in this one.
So I guess I'm just going to end this on a question for you. When you look at Grant Dawson in this division, like, his style is kind of Gregor Gillespie-ish, right? Like, they don't do everything the same, but they fight in a similar manner. Do you think Grant Dawson could be a ranked fighter at lightweight, or do you think he had a higher ceiling down at featherweight?
Lightweight's where it's at.
Okay,
when you don't have to worry about the cardio, you should be good to go, Matt. Both of us going with Grant Dawson to bring back the win to Glory MMA and Fitness. Don't tell him he's up after 2 rounds. Just play with his brain. Don't Tim Elliott him. Grant Dawson is the pick here. Big time fight in our main event that you're not going to want to miss. Vettori taking on Costa for the winner of the losers, I guess we could say, Matt. I can't wait for it. Let's keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say,
let's get into it.